Lori here. I'm here today to do day 4 of BookMas. So this video is going to look back at the goals that I made at the start of 2021. We all have grand plans at the start of the year, and I am no different. So let's see what my plans were and how successful I was. Again, I'm filming this in the start of December, so it's possible some of these numbers might get a bit closer or I might surpass them. If I think I'm going to meet them, I'm going to call them done. But yeah, let's get into it. Channel stats at the start of the year. This year I didn't meet most of them, but I did meet a couple of them. So always my reading goal is to read 100 books. My secret goal is to really read 200 books a year. I was able to do that in 2020. I thought that that was just sort of a luck shot because of quarantine, but I have done it this year as well. I have read at least 225 books, which I think is super impressive. Very, very proud of myself. Definitely a lot of audiobook listening for sure has helped that. My blog, my goal was to get up to 300 subscribers, and I got up to 307, which is really, really good. And if you're watching this, the giveaway is for that because I did reach that milestone that I didn't even know that I was reaching for, or I forgot I was reaching for. My Instagram goal is 1,000, and I'm only at 907, but I've come a long way for Instagram, so I call that a success. But yeah, it's just fun. I like doing Instagram. It's a very, very creative outlet for me. I like all the challenges. I tend to do the Read and Gush one every single month, and I really, really like it. YouTube, my goal was 400, and I think I'm at like 388. I'm getting there. I'm going to make 400 my goal next year, so I don't have to do that many subscribers, but I just love making content. It's really, really fun. It's a nice break for me, honestly. I teach full time, and this is just a nice break. Honestly, it's just a really, really fun outlet for me. I love to read. I love sharing my thoughts with people, and I'm glad that you guys like my content because it's super fun to work on. So those are my stats. Again, I don't put too much stock in followers and numbers because at the end of the day, if I didn't like doing this, I wouldn't be doing it. But again, I am very much a numbers girl, so I always pick numbers, hope I reach them. If I don't, I still love doing it. And I always say, if you're going to start a YouTube channel, don't focus on the numbers at all because if you focus on the numbers, you're going to get incredibly disappointed. So I'm really happy with how far my channel has come. I'm even getting a little bit more engagement than I normally do, which is really exciting. So if you're watching this video, comment below and tell me what is one reading goal that you succeeded in this year. I would love to hear. What I really focused on this year was to read at least 3 different genres a month, and I've actually been really good at this between reading a lot more historical romance, reading fantasy, reading middle grade, reading a nonfiction book every single month. I have done really, really good with this, and I think that was probably the most successful part of my reading life. And I think what I've noticed about me is when I read more different types of books, if I don't put as much pressure on myself to read only like one genre in a month, I tend to really like my reading life better. Like, I know in November I tried to do a challenge where I read all of adult fantasy in one month and it just failed. It always fails. So, my new goal for 2022, which we'll talk about in a couple of days, will be a little bit different. But yeah, definitely I've been very, very successful in this, and it's just made my reading life a lot better and a lot more enjoyable. I found different type of books to read, and it's just been a really fun, weird year overall. Like, just a weird year, but a good reading year nonetheless. And I was happy with the genres that I picked up and that I was able to keep this goal a success, and I made this goal a success. That I had was to read 30, oh no, was it 20? I think it was 20 e-arcs. So e-arcs are things you get from like Netgalley. I have an account on Edelweiss, and I really struggle with my Netgalley arcs because they're never like at the top of my attention point. So I always read less of those than like physical books, and I'm just not a very, very good e-reader. But my goal was to at least read 20, and I actually did that. I read more. I read 30, which I think I'm going to definitely make my goal like 25. So I just keep pushing myself. And my goal might be to like read 2 e-arcs a month or something, just so I keep up with that. That's a thing that I have a consistent issue with. And considering that the cons now are so virtual and like we're not really going to in-person cons, hopefully one day they'll be back. Not anytime soon, I fear, but I'm gonna try to work that into my TBR a little bit more and like, maybe just pick 2 ebooks at the start of the month. But I was happy that I was able to read 30, and I'll probably read maybe 1 or 2 more before the end of the year. But that's the plan anyway. I was very, very happy with that goal, and it was super successful. Changed my backdrop a little bit, so I hope this is a little bit better so you could see my shirt and my backdrop because it looks a little bit more Christmassy. But the next goal is read at least 20 or listen to at least 25 audiobooks. I listened to 55 audiobooks, which I think is really impressive. It definitely is a mix of like physical, like, fiction books and Regency romances, but also some political ones and some like nonfiction. I like to read nonfiction as well, and that has been a really, really fun experience, like super fun. But yeah, I definitely read more than I thought, but that's awesome. I really like listening to audiobooks. I've been on a little bit of a downturn recently, but very, very successful. So I was very, very happy with that. And I have started listening to a little bit more Lebo FM, which is a bookshop where like you get books where your profits support indie bookstores, which I'm definitely more a proponent of. Oh, sorry, I actually read 57 books. 50 listen to 57 audiobooks. So very, very impressive. I might actually get to 60 by the end of the year. I probably actually will. So very, very impressive. Super happy with this goal. I'm definitely going to push it for 2022. Next goal I made was I have Tbr lists at the end of the year, like goal lists, and I have failed every single year to do them. It's just so hard for me. I feel very overwhelmed. So what I did this year is I made smaller lists for every single season. I had a winter list, I had a spring list, a summer list, and a fall list. And that's sort of how I broke it down. It was probably the most successful like year I've actually ever had in following those lists. I fell off the track a little bit in September, in the summer and fall, but very, very successful. I definitely am going to do it again next year because I found that to be a little bit of an easier goal to achieve, and I actually kept doing it. Like I kept reading them and then I like added them to my prompt jars. So I actually really like that, and it just was a lot easier. Looking at a big list like that tends to be super overwhelming, but if I give myself like 3 months to read a certain amount of books, that was super helpful. I hope I can create a better balance of my lists. So like have like pick a couple of spring books, a couple of summer books, fall and winter books. So like I have specific books per each season. So that's the only thing I would sort of change, and I'm gonna kind of do that in 2022, I think. So you guys will see that journey with me when I head on to do it. But I would definitely call this a success, and it's probably my most successful list year that I've had since I've been on BookTube. It's because I'm very much like a seasonal, like a seasonal reader. Like I read bigger fantasies in the winter. I read middle grade and contemporaries in spring. I read a lot of contemporaries in the summer and eerie and creepy books in the fall. So like my list, those books were not coordinated to the season that I chose them. So that was a little bit hard, and I wasn't in the mood to read them. Some might just wind up DNFing ultimately when we get to those videos. I'll talk about it. But so yeah, so that's why I said I'm very much like a seasonal reader, and my lists were a little bit out of sync, and that's why I didn't get to read them all, or I didn't have a season that they fit in. So that's why I said that. But yeah, that's just a little bit more explanation on that one. Next reading goal or yearly goal I had was to donate or get rid of at least 100 books that I've read. So if you've been following me all year, my room flooded in about March, right when I went back to work, which had me redo my entire bedroom. So in that process alone, I would say I got rid of at least 200 to 300 books in my bedroom. So I definitely succeeded in that, and out of the books I've read, I got rid of about 85. I'll probably unhauled quite a bit more than that. I'm going to try to keep a little bit more careful record keeping in the month. In like the year of 2022. Again, plans are being made. I'll make a video about it. But yeah, so I definitely did this, and I'm really good at honestly getting rid of my books. I keep so few books that I read, unless like they're true favorites or they're signed. I also am a teacher, so I tend to like bring books to school and give them away as prizes. COVID made it really hard last year. I really couldn't do that, but I have a homeroom now, and I have some other classes that just like to read, so I do give them away as prizes a lot. I hope to continue that in 2022. So I call this goal a success. I'm really bummed my room flooded, but I did get a really nice room setup out of it. So blessing in disguise, I suppose. Keeps changing. It's a process. But so the next goal that I had was to sort of complete my top 10 lists that I have, and I have quite a few, so everyone will have a little bit of a different story, but I definitely was the most successful I ever was in completing these goals, as I said in a previous clip, so I'm really happy about that. Not all of them got done. I didn't read all the books, but I read the most I ever have. So hopefully next year I will do even better. So the first list that I'm going to chat about is my Netgalley list. So on my Netgalley list, these are all backlist titles. I didn't have like a 2022 Netgalley list. I might actually make that and just sort of leave it like blank, because I didn't do that, and that's the only thing that like I could think of that I should have done and I just didn't. So I had 20 backlist Netgalley arcs, and out of all of those, I wound up reading, I had 20 on my list, and I wound up reading 13 of them with one DNF, which I think is pretty good. So I'm really happy about that. Like, I definitely really like making the list. It made like making my seasonal reading goals a little bit easier, so I'm definitely going to do that again, and hopefully I will limit it, because I think when I make more of them I get less successful. So I'm going to try to just leave every list at 10 and try to keep it there, and try to pick the books that I'm most excited about that I still have, because some of these were just random and I don't think I love them as much as like I was expecting. I wasn't excited to pick them up. So I'm really going to try to make this list my top favorite e-arcs I currently have that I haven't read yet. So that's one adjustment I'll make. But hey, didn't do that bad. I read 13 out of 20. So that's not bad at all. The next list that I created was my 2020 reads must read by the end of the year. So the way that I constructed this pretty much was one read per month that I was really excited for, and I did really good. I still have 2 books. I have The Pickup by Miranda Kennelly, and They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. So I'm gonna actually make those my books that I try to read next week. I'm also heading into a boss battle for the Avengers Reading Challenge, and these books are super quick, so maybe I will add those as well, but my goal is to complete this. I really liked how I created this list. I'm going to try to do this again for 2022, but again, I call this a successful, and I'm going to make it my goal to finish this list as well. Hopefully I can do this before I pick up my Christmassy reads, but that's the plan anyway. What I have is sequels to read by the end of the year, and these also all came out in 2022, and I read 4 out of 8. 2 of these are still on my December TBR, so if I'm able to read those, it will pop up. I'm going to also talk about these at the very, very end in like a wrap-up video, like in January. But right now I've read 4 out of 8, which is not that bad. Again, I'm not the best sequel reader. I know this about myself, like totally, I know that about myself. Trying to get a little bit better, but still 4 out of 8 is definitely better, and 2 more are on my monthly TBR, December TBR, so it may get read, but right now I call this half done. But considering I really struggle reading sequels, I think that's a pretty good process. The list that I made was backlist sequels, and I had about 10 on this list, and I wound up reading 5 out of 10. Pretty good. Again, I'm not the best sequel reader, but I did make more progress than I normally do, and I actually have another one. I have Tale of Magic on my TBR for the month of December, so hey, it might get read, it may not get read, but at least I have it on my TBR. That's the plan anyway. That's where we are with this. But I would say I'm definitely doing better with my sequel reading, and we'll get to that goal in a little bit. And again, I'll do a final wrap up and tell you guys all these titles, but so far, read 5 out of 10, not that bad. This list that I made was a backlist book list, and honestly, I wound up DNFing one of them, Forged in Fire and Stars. I don't think I'm going to get around to reading it. It just wasn't captivating me enough. The only book I don't have on this list is that I didn't wind up reading was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRiviere, which again, I'm really tempted to read it because I will call this list done. It's not currently on my December TBR, but I may pick it up. We will see. We will see how the reading gods work and what the challenges for the boss battle is. Again, I'm kind of at their discretion for the next couple of weeks, but 9 out of 10, not that bad. I'm super impressed with myself for that way. All I had was to read at least 20 books that are not YA. So if you just count Regency romance and nonfiction, I read 39. And then if you count middle grade, I read another 39. So I definitely surpassed this goal, and I think that's super good. Again, it's all about me trying to, like, again, when I talked about one of my first goals was read more diversely each month. I definitely did that. I definitely read more Regency than I've ever read, and really have quite grown to really like that genre. I only started Regency at the very, very end of the previous year. Started reading it during the pandemic, and I just really, really enjoyed it. I really but Peace Love Books and Riley Marie, they both gave me some pretty awesome recs. So, and also Alexa Loves Books as well. So, yeah, I definitely was able to do that, and I'm going to try to up this a little bit more next year to challenge myself. But yeah, definitely was successful, which is great. So, the next prompt or goal I had for myself was to read at least 12 nonfiction books. I did a lot of listening this year, like a ridiculous amount of listening. So out of the 52 books that I listened to, 20 of those were nonfiction. And that's really, really good. I did read a lot of political books as well this year, like quite a few. I read some autobiographies, and I just read some, like, not even like self-help, but just like motivational or like just information. I read Marie Kondo's books. I read Steal Like an Artist. I just read some entertainment ones. I also read quite a few political thrillers or political like stories, which I really liked. So call this a success. Definitely want to keep doing this next year. I'm probably just gonna do like a flat rate of like reading a certain amount of nonfiction. So I tend to read at least one or two nonfictions a month. It got a little bit dicey at the end of the year, but overall I really liked my nonfiction listening experience. So that's really, really good. One of my goals was to read at least 20 sequels in the year of 2021. I made my original goal 10, and then I had 20 as a backup and hoping I would do it, and I wound up reading 30. That's so good. I think that's definitely my best sequel reading year to date, and I am so happy with that. Like, very, very happy with it. I definitely want to keep that and keep getting a little bit better and diving back into series. I definitely am a bad sequel reader and completionist of series, which is so sad because I love these books and then I just never get around to reading the sequel. So I have to try to do something a little bit better. Maybe try to make a goal, like read one sequel a month. I don't know. I haven't like made that decision yet, but that might be something I decide in my like construction of my TBR. So I'll keep you guys updated when I do plan that, but definitely happy with the 30 sequels that I've read so far. Very, very impressive. Sort of going along with the sequel thing, I wanted to complete series, and I had made that a goal because, again, I'm really bad at reading sequels. I'm even worse at completing series, but I am pleased to report I finished 13 series and caught up on 12, which I'm really, really happy about. So yeah, that's really exciting. Like, that's something that I'm really proud of myself because I struggle completing series and reading sequels. So I call that a total win. And I'm definitely going to up it a little bit more. Maybe I'll do like 10 series next year and restart that goal. But very impressed with that. So very, very happy about that as well. Reading goal I had was to read 20 books on my Kindle, not including e-arcs. Now, I did not make like a Kindle reads list, which I should have, because it was just super unfocused. It was books I got from the library. I forget what's on my Kindle and my Nook. I'll be super honest. So yeah, I'm trying to gear away from using Amazon and trying to use more on Barnes and Noble, but I have so many books on my Kindle. I have so many books that I've just never really read. So I'm going to try to make a list to kind of focus myself and sort of pick some books out. But again, it was okay. I'm very, very bad at reading on my Kindle. I blame it because they're not in front of my eyesight and I can see all my physical books, but at least I read 10. That's good. And I did read like 30 e-arcs. So I have been consistently reading on my Kindle, just not books that like I didn't get from like Netgalley or something. So sort of a win, sort of a loss. You decide. Out and make some goals that weren't about reading and were about entertainment and TV. And I had these 6 shows I wanted to finish. I finished watching one of them. That was it. So I gotta like make a better list, I think, for next year and really sort of focus back on it because I need to make my TV watching life a little bit more like my reading life. I'm very much a list checker offer. Some people find that super stressful. I do not. I find it like relaxing. So sort of go figure. But for me, that list did not work and I'm going to have to rework it for 2022 if I decide to do it again. My goal, and I got this, I think it was from Owl Crate when they were still doing videos. They haven't done them in a while. But I think Corey had like an author to sort of like focus on. And I love that. My execution failed. So my authors I wanted to focus on was Cinda Williams-Chimer, Robin Hobb, and Jeff Wheeler. Out of those 3 authors, I read 1 book by Robin Hobb, 1 book by Jeff Wheeler, and no books by Cinda Williams-Chimer. So not super successful. I'm going to have to rework how I do this, and that's sort of what I'm planning on doing in the next couple of days, figuring out what I want to focus on in 2022. Again, I like making lists. Lists don't make me all stressed out. They make some people stressed out, but I just didn't I didn't plan this out well enough. And it was a lot of high fantasy. And at this point, I really struggled this year with high fantasy. So it wasn't as successful as I wanted. And I still want to read Cinda Williams-Chimer's other series. So it will get read. Hopefully, that might be a goal for 2022. But this goal was not like, this goal did not go the way I thought because it wasn't planned out super well. But I do like the idea and I do want to do it again. So check back on my goals for 2022 and see how I rework it. Last official goal was to read 50 con reads at least. I don't know how I would classify this because I've read 15 out of 50, which you would think is definitely not a success. However, I did like unhaul at least 200 to 300 bucks. Most of those were con reads that when my room flooded. So we did get rid of a lot of books. So I don't know. I didn't read them, but they did leave my house. So does that count? I don't know. Tell me in the comments if that counts. I might say it like did count, but that's just me. And one other thing that I just wanted to mention, it wasn't like a goal, but I do have a most anticipated list in my little Inkling design journal, and I read all those books. I read all 11 of those books. So that is super impressive as well. I sort of pulled one from every single month, sort of the same as my one of my other lists, but I did wind up reading all 11 of those, so that's really, really cool. So yeah, this is the wrap up of the reading goals that I had for 2021. Let me know in the comments if you make goals, if you were successful. I definitely was much better this year than previous years, which is really, really exciting. I'm happy to film this video. I'm excited to go film my next one. Thanks for watching this long video with me, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for my next video. Bye, friends.